Good morning.
Good morning.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh, I've been looking forward to this time so much.
I know it's been too long, Kristen. We got to talk more often.
I know. So we're talking about change and we're talking about the ugly side of it. And when you're knee deep in it, those feelings that you have and then, the hindsight. We were just talking about the rear view mirror kind of looking at things. So I sent you the sneak peek of the questions, like looking at a major or minor change, and it doesn't have to be about what we do every day. What is one thing that you were like, oh gosh, that was my inner wisdom. Like I didn't even know I knew that. Or if you look back and think, oh God, I wish I knew that.
Okay, so I mean, this is a huge question and it's hard to narrow down. But
Yeah,
when I saw the question, I thought I never realized the impact that other people's expectations had on my life, and I always saw myself as very independent and free thinking, and my I think people around me did as well, but maybe just stuff from my childhood with wanting to feeling like I had to do a certain path to
right.
keep people happy and follow along what was expected. And when I got married to my ex, on paper, everything looked great. It was like, we both loved to read. He was very cultured. He had a good job. But at the time, I never considered what I actually wanted. And I can't believe that now it's like decades later that I had gone through most of my life never pausing to realize, like, am I comfortable with this or am I being led along by somebody else? And of course, in hindsight, I think I did allow myself to be led into all kinds of situations, but especially that relationship where, I didn't understand what love bombing. I knew nothing about like toxic relationships or anything. I just thought, wow, here's this guy who's successful and,
Right.
cares for me supposedly and is a little bit older. He was only 7 years older, and he's telling me that I'm marriage material and that he's dated all these people and like I'm the and so I was so flattered that I never considered, like, yeah, but is he marriage
Yeah.
material for me? Like, I probably should have paid a lot more attention. And decades later, so we were together for 20 years. And then I got out and I went on my first date after the relationship. And it was actually with my current partner, Chris. We've been together for 10 years this month.
That's
So yeah,
amazing.
but
Oh
but
my
when
gosh.
I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. But I remember when Chris and I first saw each other in the restaurant, because we met actually on Match, and we were writing back and forth for a few days. We didn't talk at all, and we looked at each other and we were like, no, no, like that's not my type. But being open-minded, we had this great conversation for a couple of hours, and very animated and enthusiastic. And after the date, good for Chris that he didn't try and like kiss me or hug me or even shake my hand. He like somehow sensed I needed
Yeah.
space. And but I remember very clearly like sitting in my car and pausing and being like, okay, how do I feel? It seems so stupid to think that. But I
No.
just paused. Like I never did that in my life. I paused and was like, you know what? That was fun. Like I feel calm. I feel comfortable. I feel like he didn't pressure me to like kiss him goodbye or anything like that. Like that was good. Like, would I go on another date? Yeah. Even though there wasn't that initial attraction, it was like,
Right.
all right, I had a really good time. And so slowing things down,
Right.
and pausing and kind of tuning in with my own feelings, because I'm like a fast talker, like I
Yeah.
write New Yorker, but doing that was so helpful.
I
And
love that.
yeah, so
I
that's my
love
my
that.
wisdom is like sometimes you gotta like pause, and it feels
Right.
silly to be like, how do I feel? But wow. And it was the right decision, of course,
I
to stay
love
together.
that so much because I just had a conversation yesterday with someone who was quite angry and said, like, I just bought into this. I never, exactly what you said. Like, I bought into it, never thought, what is this going to mean for me? Like,
Mhm.
how does
We
this
have to
affect me?
pause.
Yeah, like ask yourself, like what you just said, my two favorite questions. What do I feel? What do I need?
Hmm.
And I think I feel that hit me hard because part of me was just pushing the river all the time.
Yeah,
Pushing the river, pushing the river, push, 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 push. Never
right.
really like thinking, just like you said. And I think it's like our when we were brought up, how we were brought up, but it's also I don't think we were taught like you're the temple. My daughter is so funny because she'll say, I'm like, what would you like to eat? And she'll say, let me ask the temple. But that's because no, the temple doesn't want that. But I was like, part of me is like a little like, wow, like she's so self-aware.
Yeah. A lot of people who come out of these relationships with we talk about coercive control where you kind of lost your center and you've somehow your authority has moved into whatever that other person wants. They don't know what to order off a menu. It's very, very stressful because you're like, I haven't made that decision for myself in such a long time. That's amazing that it's again to me it's like people might think this is so silly, but that's people who haven't experienced it.
Right. No, it's all encompassing. So the fact that you are so dedicated and strong in helping so many people, and that's not a little story. Like that's like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Let's just pause, hit the pause button,
Yeah.
and check in. Check in.
Yeah. And that made me think of another story while I was still in my marriage. Our kitchen, so my ex was one of those people that like never fixed anything. So all this stuff was broken in the house and like, oh, we can't fix it because we don't have any money. In the meantime, he's like buying all this expensive,
Right.
technology for himself. But anyway, so it got to the point where there was like a little fire in the stove that wouldn't go out, and we had to do something. So we had to renovate the kitchen because every major appliance was broken. And so we got this was like a couple of decades ago when there was a recession, so a lot of the contractors like they lowered their prices, and so we got lucky. But I got a female general contractor, which was unusual, and she had a background in design, and she came in and she's like, okay, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I just want functional, like I don't really care. Again, like not thinking. Just
Right, right.
whatever anybody else wants is fine. You decide for me. And she said, no, 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 like this is an opportunity for you. Um, and she said, I want you to think about something that you love. Like, because this room is going to be a room that you spend a lot of time in.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
that was hard for me. And I'm an artist. Like I do a lot of creative stuff, but I had to think about it and I found this little flower pot that I had gotten in Mexico when my sister and I had gone that had mosaic style. And I love this plot. Like I love all the color and I love the like ethnic design and stuff. So I showed her and I was like, I love this thing. And she said, we're going to do an amazing backsplash. And so I've traveled and I've lived in Europe and I've collected all kinds of cool pottery and stuff. And so I designed it. Like I smashed all this pottery and I had things from my travels and now I have the most amazing backsplash. And if it hadn't been for her asking me that question, it would have just been, nothing. Again, like the rest of my like, whatever you
whatever.
want.
Vanilla. It would have been
Right.
vanilla.
Right. And now I'm just like every time I go in that room, I'm like, oh, it reminds me of some of the best times of my life, like traveling.
It would you make me cry all the time. Oh,
Yeah.
I think that second part of what you just said is to look for the helpers.
Yeah. The people that ask you
Uh,
the questions like,
the angels, like
thanks.
there's always there really truly is like some angel, like the a song or just her asking that question or there is wisdom in things that are so difficult.
Yeah. What was interesting about her too is here she is like this female general contractor
I love
and she
that.
said, um, I only have like Irish men that work for me. And I said, why? And she said, because they grew up in a matriarchy.
Wow.
And so it's easier. She said there's certain cultures that will not listen to a female boss in construction. And so she had this like female power.
I love that.
I
We
know.
need, we, it- well, that is so important because right now, like it is time for the divine feminine just to come back online. And
Hmm.
I think I know for me, the disconnect when I was in that situation and the wisdom that I was kind of blocking was that, we have this innate divine feminine power. And that's what really is being siphoned off.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tell you mine. I wasn't planning on doing it, but I said about pushing the river and not really thinking.
Hmm.
Like I'm on the other side of menopause now, and with
Me too.
all the stress, but I mean, I look at you and you're like 20. Um,
No,
but what I've
thank you.
noticed is that I was super hard on my body.
Really?
Yeah, during this time, just
Yeah.
expecting it to keep going, expecting it to do things, really kind of unkind. Not in a way that I like abused it with alcohol, drugs, or anything like that, but just like,
You didn't
okay,
give
move this
yourself a break?
cabinet,
Yeah.
do all this stuff and um really not, I don't want to say not respecting it, but not connected. And I find now after I have to be very aware of how I do things with my body,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, so another story. I mean, literally last night, I have a good friend that I met in Lamaze class before I had my son, who's now 25, and she's been having all kinds of serious health stuff, and nobody can figure it out, and it's scary. And so she recently learned from a neurologist that it is not, there's nothing physically wrong with her, and it's been so frustrating for her. So she's going to therapy for the first time in her life, and she's going to an energy healer, and she's not that kind of person, so she's like, oh, I know it sounds crazy. I said, no, no, no,
No,
whatever you need
no,
to do,
no.
like, I mean, but it's, I think she told me she's just realizing that things with her parents, things with her mother affected her, and she always suppressed things. She never got angry. She bore the weight of other people's things because she was such a good girl, and she went through her life like achieving things one after the other. I think hoping that her mother, who's passed away since then, would find it like make it like she was good enough, and she was never good enough. And so suppressing that anger, which she has a right to have, um, it's affecting her body,
Yeah,
and her body is like trembling and all this stuff, and it's almost like she's about to explode.
yeah,
So
it's
I think I'm
releasing.
like, I think you're getting to the issue, friend. Like
Yeah,
I think you're getting to it because she's never tapped into this, and there's all this stuff that she's pushed down for so long. And we see that also with our clients where they end up with cancer and fibromyalgia. I mean, all kinds of health issues. And then once they start figuring out what's going on and get out of those relationships, you've seen it, right? They
yes.
look so much better. They look
No, it's the
healthier.
energy of
Yeah.
it. And that's my focus a lot with my clients doing the energy work. And I'm just coming out that I'm doing that because before it was like, oh, she does mind body. No, it's more
Yeah.
energy work too, you
Yeah.
know?
It's
And
amazing.
but I was like, wow, even with all this training and everything, I still was, the cobbler with the hole in the shoe.
Hmm.
Like I'm still, oh wow, my body has shifted so much. But I think it's been the years of just protection of that energy, releasing that energy, but it still has an effect on you. You're
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah. But even I think just recognizing that is
Yeah.
healthy.
And I want to circle back before we close to what you said. Like there was so power in how you designed your kitchen so that every time you walked in there, you were like, oh, this
Like this is the, like those like pieces of pottery and things I gathered along the way when I was backpacking through Europe when I was 21. Like those memories are visual. They're right in front of my face
Yeah.
and they remind me of who I am and who I
Yes.
always was. So
Oh,
even in the midst of all of the awful divorce, like going in there, it was like you were this incredible person who had all these adventures before getting into this relationship, and now you're out of that relationship, and you're still you, you know?
oh, that's it. You're still you. It's just like coming home to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love you so much. I can't wait for everybody to hear this.
I know. We got to get together. We got to like meet in real life
Yeah, I love
and
that.
give each other like a huge hug.
Yeah, just sit. Just be in the same air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear everything that's new and coming. And underneath the video will be all the links and everything to you and to learn more. So
Okay.
thank you. Mwah. Thank you
Oh,
so
my
much, honey.
pleasure. Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.